Greetings. So this is the second video for the new year. The second of 30 in a row that I'm doing on this channel. And I decided it's time for a rant. I've done 4 rant videos over all the years I've been on YouTube, and the last one I did was 2016. And part of what I'm going to rant about is going to lead back into this. So when I did the one in 2016, I was ranting about Oscars So White, which was a hashtag that was trending everywhere because every single category, every single movie, every single actor and actress and director and whatever was white. And it was a year where there were some pretty good black movies. And people said, well, black people have won before. It's like, what are you, stupid or something? So in other words, because a black person has won something, they don't get to be considered for anything ever again. Now, the reason I'm going in that direction, and it's not totally about black, but I'm going to come back to it, is the first thing I want to talk about are what I call the fanboys. And these are the people who basically try to ruin every single movie that overwhelmingly the rest of us like. I saw the Star Wars movie in December and I loved it. I thought it was great. Did I think it was perfect? No. But so what? I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that movie. I enjoyed Frozen 2. I enjoyed Endgame. I enjoyed Infinity War. I enjoyed Captain Marvel. I've enjoyed all these movies. But there's been so much hate towards every single one of them. Heck, Captain Marvel was rated negative before it even came out because fanboys were mad at Brie Larson for being in it. The same with Crimes of Grindelwald. Was it a perfect movie? No, but you know what? I enjoyed it. But people were beating it up because Johnny Depp was in it. Johnny Depp had to be in it. He was in the first one. This has gotten to be a very mean culture. These young, okay, you know what? Young white men. These Gen Xers or millennials, I'm not exactly sure which ones they are, because they think that they own the world, that everything should be made to their expectation. And you know what? One of the problems with that is that it ain't going to happen. You want something made to your expectation, make it yourself. Y'all don't even agree on the same things. One of the things I saw when people were talking about Endgame that they hated was the scene where it was all the women and Spider-Man. And they said, well, they just threw that in there. It didn't need to be there. It was unnecessary and it ruined the entire movie. That ruined the entire movie. That one scene, I thought it was brilliant. It was the end of 23 movies. Okay, it was number 22. And they wanted to highlight all the female heroes. Let's see, how many Marvel movies were there before then that had a woman as the lead character? Oh yeah, 1. Please, are you kidding? I just don't understand you guys. You want everything your own way. It reminds me of years ago where some kid wrote something saying that J.K. Rowling wasn't a very good writer. And I wrote to him and said, oh, how many books have you written? I said, I haven't written a book. Just shut up. Writing books are not easy. Are some books bad? Yes, absolutely. But she became a billionaire. She's the first writer who became a billionaire for writing books. And you're going to say she's not that good? Are you serious? Or are you just an idiot? Yeah, like I said, this is what a rant is all about. You know, we've gotten to that point where y'all are just trying to get everything you want. And you were raised that way. When I put out a video back in September, I was trying to give tips, life tips. I turned 60 years old, trying to give life tips. And someone I know wrote on Twitter, I didn't even care about this because you're a boomer and boomers have ruined everything for everybody else. And I'm thinking, no, white boomers maybe, but not all boomers. You know what? Who are the people who elected the orange guy? It wasn't boomers, it's pre-boomers. You know, let's look at this from a factual standpoint. I just don't understand. So someone gives good advice on that level and you've decided you could care less. And you know me. It's just irritating. And yes, I've lived on that for 3 months. It's irritated me for 3 months. And I responded in a different way when I responded back to him and he gave me something. But I'm like, wow, really? And you know me and you could care less what I have to say about anything. Why did you even respond? And would respond by saying you didn't even watch the video. What kind of idiocy is that? Just someone explain that to me. So that's the first rant I have. The second rant I have, and this is a different one, it's that we tend to believe that everybody is always going to be pure in their words and their thoughts from the time that they're 2 or 3 years old. Now, that's a bit of hyperbole. Y'all go look that up if you ain't sure what that means. But let's face the fact here. There's this woman who I had no idea who she was until very recently. Camila Cabello, something like that. Very pretty young lady. She's won a Grammy for Latino songs or Latin songs or whatever. And people started beating up on her because when she was 12 or 13 years old, she said some things on Twitter and used some language that people thought was inappropriate, and people started beating her up. I'm thinking, wait a minute. She's 23 years old right now. How many people said things when they were 13 that they decided in high school or whatever, you know what? No, I don't want to say that anymore. I've met some other people. My world has broadened a bit, and I know better. And now you're going to beat them up for something that they said a good long time ago. Y'all know who Justin Bieber is. And I'm not going to sit here and defend a lot of the things he's done since he's been 18, 19, or whatever. I think that probably he had certain types of success too early on, and maybe his mother couldn't control him on her own or whatever, but still, there were adults who were beating up on him when he was 15 and 16 years old, and I'm thinking, why are adults beating up on a 15 and 16-year-old? What is that about? I just really don't understand that. I think it's unfair. You know what? I'm going to tell you the truth. There's a word that I used to use. Now, to be fair, I learned the word in college from the people who it used to reference. I had no clue what it meant before then. You know, actually I did, but it meant something totally different. And it got adopted. So it was a word I learned from those folks. And so now I went out and I would use that word in different circumstances. And it got to like late 80s. And one day I had an epiphany. And I said, you know what? That's really not a good word to use. You don't know who that might refer to that you're saying it to. And I don't want to be perceived as being negative against those people because I certainly wasn't using it to condemn anybody. It was just a phrase that I learned. And so I stopped saying it back in the 80s. So with that, now 30 years I haven't said it. So what happens if all of a sudden, after all the things I've been saying about diversity over the last 20 years, someone says, well, geez, I remember back in the mid-'80s when you used to use this word all the time. Does that now invalidate everything else I've done? It shouldn't. When Paula Deen got into her trouble, I was probably one of the few people who said, so Paula Deen's going to get into trouble for something that any rational thinking person who knows anything about history in the United States would have expected that she would have said those words. I'd have been shocked if she had said, oh, I'd have never said anything like that in my life. Everybody's lying. But she said, well, yeah, I used to say that. That's just how it was back in the South. Forget just the South. That's how it was when I was growing up. There were people who were using the N-word and the C-word and all these other kind of things. And this just was part of their culture. When I moved to Liverpool, New York, this high school was using words that were ethnically insensitive and insulting. But none of those ethnicities were in the school. I was like, where did they learn these words? And I was a military kid, so I knew what the words were. And I'm like, wow, where did they get these things? Because that's what kids do. They say things like that. And your hope is that they don't get into their 20s and 30s and still have those same beliefs and still say that stuff. When you get into that certain age, and especially in today's world of social media, where it's out there now, so people should know a little bit better than doing that. But if you get to that point where you're an adult and you're saying it, and people are jumping on you, okay, that's a different story. You know, now you know better. You've had the education. You've seen everything. You've seen how people react. I tend to believe in the First Amendment to a degree, which basically says you can say anything you want to as long as you're ready for the criticism, which is what I'm doing in this video. Because some of the people aren't going to like what I have to say. Bring it on. Unfortunately, you got to use clean language because I have the censors blocking any bad language. So y'all got to at least be somewhat nice. Oh, and by the way, YouTube's got that new harassment policy. So just let you know, I didn't set that one up. So, you know, I don't like beating up on young people. I don't like beating up on older people who have a certain thought about something because that's how they grew up. Back in the day, I was black and I'm proud. I'm still black and proud. But when I became black and proud, there were a whole lot of black people who didn't want to be called black. They wanted to be called colored. And they took a lot of heat from the Black Panthers and some other folks. And me, I said at the time, well, you know, why would I expect someone who's 50, 60 years old to suddenly change from that? Now, the N-word, they always hated that. But there were some folks who actually got used to that. Let's think about that N-word for a minute. It's prominent today. There's white kids using it all over the place. Why? Because they hear it in the rap music. And the rap folks are saying, well, you don't get to use that word. Just we can use that word because it's about us. I'm thinking, y'all taught them that. I stopped at a gas station one time, and these kids got out of the car, white kids got out of the car, and they're saying these lyrics. And they looked over at me, and they did this thing, and they didn't really know what to do. And I'm looking back at them and saying, what do they think of me if they feel comfortable enough getting out of the car, singing those lyrics, not a thought in their mind until they see me? And I don't live in a predominantly black area. Just throwing that out there. So that freaked them out. I don't know if they learned any lesson from that, but I was just like flabbergasted. But did I think they were racist? No, because it was black people who were doing the rap. That's just how it is. It's the same thing with women who are singing those lyrics where the women are being called the B word. You know, Oprah once said, as long as you guys keep liking that kind of music, they're going to keep calling you that word. And then you get mad because someone called you that. You know they got that from the songs that you guys listen to. They didn't listen to that kind of stuff when I was younger. We just didn't have that. Our rap was clean. It was still mean, but it was clean. It's just a different thing. And you have to kind of take some of that into account when you're looking at these things. I don't beat up on all millennials or Gen X's or Gen Z's or whatever, because there's a lot of those folks who have turned out to be very smart and intelligent and do a lot of good things for everybody else. But there's that culture. There's that group of people who think that the world should bend to them, should acquiesce to all their demands and all their wishes. Doesn't work that way. Someone's got to tell you, that's me. So when we get to this cancel culture thing, y'all got to be more perspicacious in what you do. You just have to decide, well, you know what, they're this or whatever, and they deserve a break. You just have to. Otherwise, you're always going to be mad at somebody, and you're always going to be putting out this stuff, all this hate, and then the world never gets along. Here's my last thing, and now I'm going to tie it back to being black. I didn't know this until a few weeks ago. There are people who are considering themselves as asexual, pansexual, some other terms that I never knew what they were before, and they want you to call them by what they want you to call them. And I have a problem with that because I can't remember any of that stuff. I'm 60 years old. It took a friend of mine 2 years to get me to understand what cisgender meant. I'm like, I don't get it. It just didn't work in my mind. And then finally I found out that that meant agreeing with the sex you were born as. So I'm a cis male. It's like, we needed a word for that? I already knew what I was. But there are some folks who are born male who see themselves as female. Fine, I don't care. There are people born female who see themselves as male. I don't care. I really don't. Maybe other people do. I don't care. If I know who you are and you tell me you want to be called Roberta and you were born as Bob, you're going to be Roberta. But I'm not going to remember if you say, well, I want my pronoun to be they and them and those. What? You've just disrupted my mind. I can't do it. I will call you your name all the time. I'm sorry. You know, it is a difficult thing for folks my age. Maybe even if I was 10 years younger, it would be difficult to understand this. And in my opinion, you want what you want because you grew up wanting that. You know what? Let's face a fact here. I'm just going to throw this out there. In 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, when you've heard news about things that have been happening to people, who have they been happening to? Have they been happening to gay people? No. Have they been happening to lesbians or transgender, whatever? Some. Has it happened to black people almost every single day? Yes. How many cops have killed gay, lesbian, transgendered, whatever, queer, whatever. How many times have you heard that the police have killed you and they went to jail or didn't go to jail, went to trial, didn't get convicted? But you hear that all the time with black people. Now, are there some black people who acquiesce to some of these other terms or whatever? Absolutely. But it's not that prevalent. Why? Because it's tough enough being a black person in America. When people are calling the police saying there's black people in the pool and they need to go. There's black people selling water on the street and they need to go. I saw a black person walk into my building and I didn't know who they were and I need you to come over and check it out. You basically have put a almost death sentence on every single person that you've done that to. I can't hide it. Look at this. Brown. If I walk out, ain't nobody gonna confuse me with anything else. If I happen to be gay, they could care less because they see a black person in front of them. They see a Latino person in front of them. They see an Asian person in front of them. They see, and you know what? I just had this epiphany the other day. It turns out that Middle Eastern people are African. I'd never thought about that before, but they're considered as part of Africa. So they see all these other peoples because of skin color. And we don't have to say a thing. We don't have to be out there advocating whether we're gay, lesbian, or whatever, all these other kind of things. We are on the front line of getting killed. I've been followed in stores. It's been a while as I've gotten older, but I used to be followed in stores. I got pulled over a few times just for driving while black. Come on, really. And I was dressed okay. I think that people should be allowed to dress how they want to and express themselves however they want to. But truth of the matter is, if you didn't sometimes, you're not going to get harassed. I could be wearing a 3-piece suit and I can get stopped. It ain't the same thing. And I'm sorry about your pronouns. I'm just not going to remember it. It's not going to happen. For that matter, I have not remembered most names of people that I've met in the past 20 or 30 years. So I'm sorry for that. But if I remember your name, I'm going to call you by your name. But I'm probably not going to use the pronoun. Now, you can add to me as part of cancel culture. You can say, what's that? Okay, boomer or whatever. Go ahead and say, you know what? I don't care. I'm a boomer. Barely made boomer, but I'm a boomer. I could care less. I care about people in general. I don't want anyone being hurt. I don't want anyone being killed. I don't want anyone being harassed for what they want to be. But I think there's a limit. There should be a limit. And if it's not immediately visible and I happen to make a mistake or someone my age happens to make a mistake, that's just how it is. I'm sorry. Now, I also don't go by African American. I'm black. But I'm not going to jump on you if you call me African American. I'm not going to jump on you if you call me colored, although I'm going to wonder about your heritage. I'm just telling it like it is. But we need to really just stop feeling so privileged across the board. I ain't privileged one bit. I'd love to have $5 million, but you know what I found out? Even rich people. Chris Rock has talked about it. Kevin Hart has talked about it. Eddie Murphy has talked about it. Where they get pulled over. They have been pulled over by the police because they're driving a car that some white cop has decided they probably shouldn't be driving without realizing these are black people that have money. Athletes get pulled over because they're athletes who are black in a place where some cop has decided that they shouldn't be. Doesn't happen to everybody. It just does not. These days, Latinos are getting it. The orange guys got people, pulling folks over all the time, trying to produce papers to show that they're citizens. We don't have papers. That's not what we do. You get a driver's license. Well, how do I know this is real? Oh, come on. This is my rant. We need to get better. We need to treat each other a little better. We need to acknowledge that there are some realities in life, and one of those realities is we don't always get what we want. And if you want to compare the dangers to you to the dangers that black people have had, let's do that. That's all I'm saying. This is my rant. Like I said, this has been 3 years since the last time I did a rant. Actually, 3.5 years. I hope that I don't do another one, but it had to be said. Now I'm tired. Now I want a cookie. My name is Mitch Mitchell. Y'all let me know what you thought. Have your say. Beat me up if you want to. Agree with me if you want to. Like I said, if it's bad language, it's going to go into the filter. So don't even bother. Matter of fact, I had a guy in 2019 who cussed in one of his comments. It got blocked by YouTube. And then he wrote 7 more messages. And each one must have been worse because YouTube blocked all of them. But it still notifies you that someone said something. So there you go. You know, we're going to have some kind of respect. I respect almost everybody. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. My name is Mitch Mitchell. Let's hope that this may be the longest video of 30 that I'm doing in a row. Y'all take care.